Well, let's talk about Hawaii for a few minutes. Isn't that just incredible? And look at the island is actually growing in here. I mean, it just blows my mind that Hawaii is really an active geology lab in many ways. So this will be on the test. This question of do you think Hawaii should be included within North America? Obviously, it's a part of the United States, but geologically, right, it's quite different. Climatically, it's different in terms of the biome. There's a huge amount of space between Hawaii and the rest of North America. So, do you think that Hawaii should be included with this? Do you think that this is a good choice, for lack of a better way to say it? So, some of the kind of the high points of this, right? Just to give you some of the pros of it being included in North America, and then some of the cons. It obviously is part of the United States. Yes, it became a state in 1959. I have put a video below about how Hawaii actually became part of the United States, and unfortunately, the treatment of the indigenous people and the indigenous control mirrors much of what happened in the rest of the United States. So that there's that element of this. Right? There is a long-standing, couple hundred years now, maybe not quite that long, a cultural, historical, and economic ties with the mainland. But that's because American businessmen went there and took over. Okay? It definitely is a strategic location. The fact that we have a large number of naval forces there, and also in places like Guam and the Marshall Islands. But these are strategically important, geopolitically important locations for the United States and its allies and its position as a world power and its position in the Pacific. So all of those are reasons that to include it in North America. But it is at the same time a distinct entity. There's a physical separation from the continent, of course. There's that relative isolation surrounded by, that water that's there. There's the distinctiveness of the physical landscape. While we, of course, have volcanic activity along the west coast, right? We've got the west coast of North America is part of the Ring of Fire, of course. But this is a distinct physical shape, right, and formation. Culturally, it's significantly different than the mainland, and there's also distinct flora and fauna. So that's going to be a discussion question probably in the forum, but it'll also be on the test. So these are a few thoughts that I have about this issue. Feel free to bring in your own. But what do you think? Do you think Hawaii should be included within the region of North America? Okay. All right, so just a couple brief things about the physical geography here. It is, of course, the archipelago that we call Hawaii is the visible portion of a series of massive volcanoes, most of which are underground, or not underground, underwater. Okay? And so this is just the visible tops that have emerged from the water. And this is the way that these Hawaiian Islands, that this chain has been formed. There's a hot spot here with magma underneath the surface, and then it breaks through and pushes up and builds up and builds up and builds up and creates the mountain. Right? It creates the island. And so the newest islands are the ones that are the closest to the hotspot. So the area where the active formation is going on, those are obviously the newest ones. Okay? And then the plate is moving in this direction. Right? So it's moving over the hotspot. So picture it like if your hand, right? You've got a finger pushing up between your fingers and your hand is moving along the surface. Well, your finger is going to get closer to, the bend in your fingers, right? If it starts at your nails and then comes in, you're having movement. And that's exactly what happens here with the plate. So the plate is continuing to move. It's moving over the hot spot. And so you get older and older locations where the hot spot used to be active, right? Where it used to be over the hot spot. And so the further away you get from the hot spot, the older the islands are. We're approaching 4 million years old for Kauai, and then Hawaii is still being formed. And in fact, there is a new island that is being formed. That it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen in our lifetime unless something major happens. But a new island that will be south of Hawaii, the island of Hawaii, will eventually form. So it is an ongoing process. You can see it. You can see the chain of creation, and then you can see that the plate movement has shifted over time. But there's a whole series of chains throughout the Pacific, and this is how they are created over a hotspot and movement of the plate. Yeah. And I learned these two names and this difference my very first semester of college, which now is oh so many years ago. But this is, I think, one of the interesting things that to remember and to keep in mind about lava and the flows and the eruptions here. The Hawaiian names for these two different kinds of lava are what these two are called generally now. And when you've got a slow flow, you have something that looks more like ropes, and it's very smooth and gradual, and that is called pohoihoi. And it sounds like a flow, right? It sounds very gentle and gradual. Pohoihoi. This, however, the rocky, juddy, prickly, pokey, the stuff you don't want to step on, obviously when it's cool, but that's ah, right? And it sounds like something you don't want to step on, right? You're going ah, but is the stuff that forms. It moves faster, and the pohoihoi moves slower. There's also differences in the makeup and the temperature and the chemical composition. Right? All of those things also affect which one's going to be and which one is going to be pohoihoi. But overall, the pohoihoi flows more slowly, and then the came from faster moving lava. Okay? So this is jagged, and that is smooth. We do have a number of different volcanoes, including the world's largest volcano, Mauna Loa, and it's probably been erupting for about 700,000 years. So it's, an active volcano. And it covers about half the island of Hawaii, its flow, and you can see how it has transformed, grown the island, and continues to erupt. And just in the last couple of years, there's been some major eruptions. This is a road, of course, where the lava is flowing across. It's destroyed a number of homes. There's been lava and fires, right? And there are very different cultural views here about how this should be managed and what should be done. The native Hawaiian people feel like you should never interfere with an eruption. Right? It is a holy and a spiritual thing, and to try to stop the lava or interfere with it, to try to redirect it or cool it down with water, that they feel very strongly that that is an affront to the gods. And so this is a very different cultural perception of the hazard of the lava. And so this is causing tension between the native Hawaiian populations and the people who are not native, who don't want their houses to burn down. Not that the native Hawaiians want their houses to burn down, just they feel like the eruption and the lava should be treated differently. This is an issue of perception of a hazard, right? And that has a lot to do with culture. Up on top of Mauna Kea, which is one of the other volcanoes in Hawaii, and it's the tallest mountain in the world if you measure from the base to the tip, because it extends about 10,000 feet below the surface of the water. And there is an observatory at the top of it. There is snow at the top of Mauna Kea, despite the fact that we are in the tropics and not far from the equator. Right? So if you can go from the beach to needing a parka in a very short amount of time by going up the mountain. This location is fabulous for an observatory. It's one of the most important observatories in the United States because there are dark skies. Yes, there are cities in Hawaii, but overall you are surrounded by darkness at night with the ocean. There's low humidity up at this high elevation, and the position is above most of the water vapor in the atmosphere, so that helps with the clarity of the images. There's also overall pretty clean air in Hawaii. And because of that, the winds that blow through and the isolation. So all of those pieces make this an ideal location for an observatory. And there has been one here for quite a while. But there's also an expansion that has been proposed and now seems to be going forward. There's my other slide. Sorry, my slides were out of order. Me talking about the perception and the culture. I will rearrange those slides. Sorry about that. But here, the lava, the flow, the breakouts, the perception of culture, all of those different views between the native people and the non-native people. Okay? But native people are also protesting against the expansion of the observatory because they feel like this is sacred space, that people should not be up there, and that this is a violation of their culture. And so this is another ongoing battle between Indigenous rights and non-Indigenous rights. Okay? And I have collected some pieces for you, some stories and some podcast about Native culture, specifically about tiki culture in terms of tiki bars and tiki shirts, or aloha shirts or Hawaiian shirts, depending on which name you have. So that is the other focus for this region. Okay. Let me know what questions you have.